Hey, Algebra 1. We're going to continue doing something from 9.6. We're going to just continue practicing using the quadratic equation. But what I wanted to talk about today is to kind of put all together what we learned from Chapter 8 and Chapter 9 and talk about how they're all related. So when I say solving quadratics, by the way, a quadratic looks like this typically. This is the standard form for a quadratic. This is familiar. You've seen this a bunch of times now. Probably for the last 3 months we've been looking at this thing. Equals 0. Okay? So this on the top right is a quadratic. Now we have learned multiple ways to solve these kind of things. Okay? First one is factoring. The first one is factoring. Why would we ever use factoring? Well, straightforward. Factoring is the easiest one out of all of them. Like, for example, let's say it was x squared plus 5x minus 6, of course, equals 0. So factoring, what's really good about factoring is, hey, if I see that negative 6 has things that multiply that add up to positive 5, like 6 and negative 1, then I already have it factored out. X plus 6, x minus 1 equals 0. From there, I split and solve both sides. So my answer is negative 6, and my answer on the right is positive 1. So what does this mean? We like to use factoring probably our first time. We like starting off with factoring. Why? Because when the numbers are nice and clean, and it's an ABC and it's already set up, or maybe we move it a little bit to set it up, what's really nice is that they're fairly easy. That's why we learned it first. That's why it's in chapter 8 instead of chapter 9. I think it's pretty straightforward. Now, finding square roots, sometimes we have to do that. We do that when we don't have an x to the 1 power. So something like this. 3x squared minus 27 equals 0. Let's say something like that. 27 equals 0. So we don't really need to do factoring here. We don't want to do factoring here. What we want to do is just do normal algebra, which is move 27 over here by adding, and then divide it by 3. So we get x squared equals, this is plus 27 divided by 3, 9. Then you square root both sides, and you have x equals plus or minus 3. So finding square roots is very useful when you don't have a bx. So, well, let me talk about here. Factoring, this is probably our first option. We like to use this. Second here, when we're finding square root, it's very useful when we don't have a bx. So no bx. Like if we don't have a b, then finding square roots is going to be the best thing we could do. And the last one is completing the square, or the second to last one is completing the square. We like it when it's something like this. Let's say plus, no, let's do minus 11, let's say. In this situation, negative 11, there's no factors of negative 11, that gives you 6. Okay? So we like using completing the square. And a reminder what completing the square is, you add 11 to both sides, or you get the x by itself. You go to plus c to both sides. You go to find c by doing b over 2 squared. So 6 over 2 squared equals 3 squared, which is 9. On the right, 11 plus 9 is 20. On the left, I could do x squared plus 6x plus 9. Factor that into a perfect situation, x plus 3 squared. Square root both sides and solve it. And I did that quickly because this is not about practicing this. It's just talking about why would I choose this. So you would like to choose this one when a equals 1. When a does not equal 1, we have to do something complicated, and that's not very nice for us. And the other thing, when b is even. So those are the best times to use completing the square. When a equals 1, b is even, and I guess I should say also, I'm sorry, it was off camera. A equals 1, b is even, and I should also say, when factoring is not the best option. Like this is like, I do this after factoring. And then we have quadratic equation. Now quadratic equation, what's very good about it, as this giant truck is driving by, I apologize for that. What's very good about it is that with the quadratic equation, you don't care how it looks like, how it's set up, what you have or don't. Quadratic equation always works. So I'm just going to throw random numbers. So if it looked like 3x squared plus 7x minus a 100 equals 15, and then you have to move the 15 to set it, let's just set it equals 0. Equals 0. If you had something like this, you don't care. You don't have to see, oh, I have to bring over, let me slide and divide and do that. No, you just plug it into the equation. You figure out what ABC is and just plug it in the equation. Does it work? Does it not work? You'll figure it out later. But that's what's nice about this right here, is that you don't really care what it looks like. So this could be always used. I just kind of want to talk about how they're all kind of related. I can't really ask questions on this other than like which one would you prefer to use, but because everyone's answer is different, there's no right or wrong answer unless you don't explain yourself. Because technically, you could always say quadratic equation. It's very straightforward. So with that in mind, I just want to talk about how they're related. But your homework is still going to be based off yesterday's video.